I remember it well, the day that my high school choir director broke the news. She read a letter that stated we had been invited to join other teen choirs from all over to perform on a very prestigious stage. At first, my thoughts were limited to possibly a stage in Dallas at a university or similar. Never in my wildest dreams would I have guessed her next words. We would have a chance to sing at Carnegie Hall in New York City. My heart stopped at hearing those words. There were only a few spots available for each section of the choir. I didn't have much classical training, only being in choir class for just a few years. I had been raised singing solos at church, but that was the entirety of my experience. However, there was a determination that came over me at that very moment. My headphones became my new best friend. I listened to the music every chance I had, studying tirelessly to commit to memory the words and notes of the very long piece of music that had been chosen for the performance. Duraflay's Requiem. It was way out of my comfort zone. Not only was it difficult to hit some of the notes, the words were in Latin. Much work, I made the cut. I earned one of the spots in the alto section. It was only then that the real work began. Rather than focusing on just the tryout portions, I had to get the entire piece perfect. It was about 45 minutes long, done without much pause. My only saving grace was that performing choirs used sheet music. However, most times they're so good they don't have to look at it. This remained in the back of my mind as I prepared in our local group. After all the work done in our local choir, it was time to fly to New York, and reality set in as I looked out the airplane window. I saw the city from the sky, and I felt like a fish out of water. It was so vast and busy. In comparison to my little hometown, it might as well have been another world entirely. It was hard to fathom that I had made it that far. Furthermore, I knew that there was still so much practicing to do. I had to wait until the next day to meet the other students and the director. It felt like an eternity before we were able to see Carnegie Hall at all. As we stood outside the building, it seemed so surreal. From that perspective, it looked like any other building in the city. However, the history almost emitted from the very walls that held the stage of such greatness. There had been so many famous people that had graced that very venue. We were led on stage during that first day so that we might get a feel for what was to come. We all just stood in awe at the empty auditorium, unable to envision what it was going to feel like to see a packed house. You could have heard a pin drop, and the entire choir stood there, admiring the stage and the building. We had all seen pictures and movies, but never thought we would stand on that stage. The next few days we rehearsed tirelessly. Morning sessions were reserved for the entire choir, where the notes were fine-tuned and the timing perfected. We were professionally instructed in voice theory in small groups. These were professional lessons that exceeded anything we had learned at our high school level. Afternoons were the time that the choir went through the piece with the accompaniment of the New York Symphony Orchestra, although we never felt adequate to have them accompany us, and felt that it was more the other way around. They were flawless. The night of the performance held a quick dress rehearsal on stage with cues and timing reviews, as well as placements of the choir sections, orchestra, and soloist. It was all becoming very real, very fast. We heard them tuning their instruments. The sound was one of beautiful chaos as each person played their own instrument without regard to the other notes that were being played by the others. At the cue, we all filed onto the stage. We saw a packed house. Our nerves told us it was time to begin. The conductor stood still, holding us all at attention. With a swift move of his hand, the music began to play. We all followed along in our sheet music so that we were certain to get our parts just perfect. These practices had felt like they drug on forever. However, this performance seemed to only last moments. That very last note left us breathless, knowing that it was over. Our dream was now a memory. We had tried, we had studied, we had sung, and we were left with the lingering sound of the applause of the audience. We would cling to that memory. Though I have done much with my life since that time back in high school, I look back at this moment as a great accomplishment and a highlight over the years of my life. After all, how many people can say that they have stood on that stage of Carnegie Hall and performed for a packed house? It has made for an interesting conversation.